The media that once praised Julian Assange, hailing him a hero for his work as a whistleblower, has now drastically changed its tune after the debut of his talk show here on RT. While some say it's due to journalistic jealousy, others believe the U-turn is political. Laura Smith reports now from London.
It was one of the biggest scoops of all time. 92,000 leaked logs detailing the bloody truths of the Afghan war from the ground up, shared exclusively with a handful of newspapers. And Julian Assange was its hero, a nomad with no fixed address and a backpack full of secrets.
Julian Assange contacted some of the big mainstream players in the media markets, and they were only too happy, of course, to piggyback off one of the greatest, perhaps the greatest leak of classified information in history. The Guardian has benefited hugely by the deal they made with Julian Assange.
The leaks contained the material for dozens of stories in the New York Times and The Guardian, enhancing their reputations as protectors of democracy and press freedoms. Back then, The Guardian newspaper, one of Assange's original media partners, called him an important figure, a most interesting and unusual pioneer. But now, in the pages of the very same publication, he's a useful idiot. From hero to zero, a fall from grace that some put down to nothing more than journalistic jealousy. A useful idiot in The Guardian, a nut job in the New York Times. With partners like these, who needs enemies?
It staggers me. It absolutely leaves, me sort of floored that so many journalists who really, I think their job should be challenging authority, their job should be preventing governments working in the dark, seem to be so critical of somebody who's probably done one of the most major issues in giving journalism a service, in challenging power in recent years.
Assange says one reason he chose RT to broadcast his programme is that other channels wouldn't let the people he wanted to interview say the things they wanted to say. Some say the resulting backlash on both sides of the Atlantic is a way for publications of questionable integrity to whitewash their images.
It really makes American media outlets feel good to be able to point to other media outlets and say, oh, look over there, those are tools and instruments for state propaganda, because when they do that, they get to forget about and obscure their own role in disseminating state propaganda, most notoriously in the lead up to the Iraq War, where, for example, the New York Times did more than almost anybody to convince Americans about the need to attack Iraq based on a lie. But even since then, the model of the U.S. media is very much to show faithful loyalty to the U.S. government. And so there's really a lot of irony and hypocrisy in this criticism.
In a further irony for The Guardian, its anti-Assange backlash seems to have seriously misjudged its readership. Comments in response to the article are overwhelmingly supportive of Assange and his show, and accuse the paper of bearing a childish grudge.
At best, it's the envy. At worst, it is crucial political viewpoints taken by the mainstream media. They don't like what the wiki cables have revealed. They don't like what Julian Assange represents, because it really does threaten the perspective of mainstream media.
Perhaps Assange's latest and unintended scoop shows how so-called liberal media outlets like The Guardian and New York Times are anything but, demonstrating instead an intolerance of those who don't play by their rules. Laura Smith, RT, London.